Hi there, this is Jennifer. Welcome to Crafting in Carrollville. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you tuned in. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. If you don't subscribe at all, you just got your subliminal message on the screen. Please subscribe. Okay, so these are some of the projects that we're working on today. I laid out some of my materials. That's subject to change. Maybe I used them, maybe I didn't. Generally, I use them. Anyway, so our first project involves those terracotta potters plants and this, I'm going to call it kindergarten clay, because what I'm using it for is probably the only thing it's truly useful for. It's air dry clay. If you use molds and things like that, like most of us do, this is not the type of clay you want to put in your molds. You don't want to know why I know that. But anyway, so the first thing I've done is use my rolling pin to roll it so that it's about 1/16 of an inch thick, and then I'm spreading my wood glue on my terracotta pot there. I got that pot at the bins. Seems to be a frequent thing we talk about in my videos. I get most of my projects, my upcycling projects and substrates at the bins. So I'm just going to spread that clay out over that pot, and it doesn't matter to me that I'm applying it in broken pieces, because that's the whole idea. I want it to be broken and old, and we're just going to take this plain terracotta pot and make it into something old and beautiful. I'm leaving room even between my cracks, between my pieces of clay, my sheets of clay. You can see that I'm not concerned about it covering every part of this pot. I'm not putting it on the bottom because, you know, obviously it would just crack, and also I don't want it to have, I still want it to be able to stand correctly. I don't want it to wobble. My clay is old. I've been trying to get rid of this clay for months. So I'll tell you how I know that it's not suitable for molds. We did a craft project at the library because I teach a craft workshop at my local library every month. And the day that I brought this clay, like really, like girls, the crying was unnecessary. But seriously, it was bad. Anyway, so you can see now I'm texturizing that clay. I'm using this fondant mold that I got at Hobby Lobby. This is a brick pattern. It came with 2 of those molds. And if you're not looking at Michael's and Hobby Lobby and even Walmart in their baking aisle for molds, you might want to check that out. Especially at Hobby Lobby and Michael's, because obviously those are items that are in their rotation for 40 or 50% off. These pink ones, they came from Hobby Lobby as well, and these are, again, fondant molds. They work for resin, hot glue, clay. Now let me say, if you tried to, put clay in those, don't, because I don't think you'd ever get it out. But it works great for impressions that I'm doing now. And what I love about these particular molds is these molds make a raised impression. Now, the brick mold makes an actual impression, but these fondant molds make a raised, sculpture. So there's a difference in the way that the clay handles them. And I love it that these actually give you a raised stencil type thing. I really love that. Like I said, I think you could probably get some resin in those molds. You might have to use the droppers that you buy. I haven't tried it, but you could definitely use a precision tip hot glue gun to get the glue in there. Listen, I'm just being super random about the way I texturize this clay. It seriously doesn't matter to me if it looks perfect by any means. In fact, the more imperfect, the better. I make 3 of these, and so anytime that I'm working on one in this video, it might not be the same one, so you might see me in different levels of progression. Now I'm going to paint my clay after it's dried. I do actually paint it a little bit before it's dried. It's not completely dry is what I'm trying to say. But I'm using this suede paint that I picked up on clearance at Michael's a long time ago. I don't know what I'll do when I run out because I really love it. It has a slight texture to it, which is another great aspect of this project. And then I'm using a chip brush to apply the paint, and that will actually give it more texture. So the more texture you have on these, the better. These are going to look like old world pottery. That's where we get, you know, the French provincial theme here that we're going for. Also, these could work with, you know, your farmhouse things. It really, sometimes it depends on how you embellish them. Anyway, so I got those all painted up, and now I'm going to add birds to the pots. I got these birds from the Dollar General on clearance. They were 50 cents. And then the little round wood things that I'm using for pedestals, you know what? I don't know where I got them, but I got them. So I'm going to paint those to match the pots. They're going to be the same color. Eventually, they're all going to end up with the same finish on them. And if you'll notice, I didn't try to paint the entire inside of my pot. You're not going to see it. It's going to be covered with stuff. And I also, I'm using the same textured paint that I was using on the pot. I want that bird to have a little more texture. These are great little resin birds. If you ever come across them at Dollar General, they're on the spring aisle. The gardening aisle is what they call it. So I always buy them at the end of the season when they go on clearance, and they're usually like 50 cents. Now I'm going to wax this clay. I've waited for it to dry completely at this point. It was super humid the day I did this project, so I had to wait an extra day. It was just really, really rainy. So I'm using just antiquing wax, and I'm rubbing it on. I water it down so that it spreads really nicely. This is the Waverly brand. And then after I've got it in all those cracks and crevices, I come in with a baby wipe. I wipe it back, and then so my clay doesn't get muddy and change color, or, you know, the paint itself, I wipe it back with a paper towel as well, so I don't want to leave my project wet. But that's what I'm doing here, and this is just a super important part of this process because it makes all that pattern just come out and come alive. I love this part of any project. It's always the details, and you know, they say the devil is in the details, but in this case I just think the details are super heavenly. I love the way this looks, and you're going to see as this progresses that it just gets prettier and prettier. And you can see on some areas that the terracotta pot is not covered at all, and those are going to come into play later when we apply our finishing touches to this project. And if you ask me, it's always about the finishing touches. I want to mention while I'm waxing this pot here and y'all are watching that I am so thankful that y'all have subscribed, that you're watching, that you're liking and commenting. You're really helping us establish ourselves on YouTube. I do ask that you subscribe. It's free. It's always going to be free. And I need y'all. I need y'all to help me build the community over here. There are goals that we have. I mentioned last time one of our goals is not world domination. Like, we don't want to do everything. I don't want to sell my thrifted goods. I don't want to become a stockist. I don't want to do those things. But I do want to encourage you to come to our shows. When we establish our website, visit our website, you know, show us some love. But it's so free to do those things right now. Like, share, comment, subscribe. All free things. So this is another pot that I'm working on here. I'm waxing it the same way. I used different patterns on each pot. They all look a little different, but they all match so well. These are definitely going to a show with us. We have a show on March 22nd, which is in about a week. And we have a show in April 11th through the 13th at the Strawberry Fields in Plant City, Florida. It's about an hour and a half away from our house, and it's a 3-day show with vintage market days. So we're super excited about that. So everything that I'm doing in this video is going to our next couple shows with us. You know, I'm going to be real hopeful and say they're going to one show, and then I'm going to have to make a bunch more so I can take them to the second show. But in reality, that's not usually the way it works. You never know what's going to sell and what you're going to hold on to for a while. When you're creating for shows, the best advice I can give you is just keep creating, because eventually it's all going to sell. If you do shows often and regularly, everything you make is eventually going to sell. So when people come at me with that question, how much should I make for a show? What should I make? Hey, make what you make and make as much of it as you can make. Because if you intend to keep doing shows, you're going to want an inventory. Here I am now. I am adding this patina to... I'm actually really only going to add it to the birds in certain places, and then also I'm going to add it to the parts of the pot that the clay didn't cover. And I'm just mixing up my own colors. I'm adding some texturizing sand, patina, rust, all those things. They have a texture to them. Those chemical reactions create a texture. So I'm just adding colors together until I think it looks like it's a natural patina color. It's really garish right now. That's very bright. But then I come back in with that wax again, and after the paint dries, I come back in with the wax and I tone it down, and it just looks so pretty. You're going to see at the end of this video, I try to show you some close-up shots of what that looks like. I want you to notice also, I think I show you this later as well, but what I use for filler in my pots when I'm going to put flowers in them and decorate them, I do not use the flower foam. It's super expensive. You can get pool noodles for much cheaper. I do think they're over $3 at Walmart. They're still $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. But I have one better. If you pick them up at the bins, if you have a local bins store, they sell things by the weight. They're literally 2 cents. So I always have a few of those on hand. Now you can see I've come back in and I've waxed that patina so it's toned way down. And now I'm just coming in with a super dry brush, and I'm dry brushing some white paint on top so that it looks like, there's been a lot of repair on these pots. There's been a lot of paint added to them. There's a lot of age that they've gone through, but they're still holding strong. So that's one of the last things I do to the actual pots themselves. Like I mentioned, I made 3 of these, so anytime you see me working on one, it could be one or it could be the other 2. I love what those chip brushes do when you dry brush. They really, they add some dimension that you need in a project like this. This is all about texture and age and finishes. And I also want you to note that I didn't use really any special products. I didn't use a patina medium. I simply used paint, and you're going to see at the end it looks very much like I used a product, but I didn't. I used paint. So that's always an option. Listen, before this day and age, people were crafting. So, when pots like this, were actually born years ago, if this pot was as old as it looks, they were creating. So we can be creative without spending a ton of money on special products. We really can. So I want you to know that it's not about money. It's really about creativity. And I am always going to tell you the cheapest way to get your supplies and materials. I'm all about crafting and selling my crafts at our shows. Look, I'm even using old tin foil. This tin foil, I had baked my Spanish moss in that tin foil. I think I mentioned in one of my last videos that I harvest Spanish moss from our trees outside. We live in Southwest Florida, so we have all the haunted trees down here. I don't know if y'all ever see what Spanish moss looks like hanging like in a sunset or something like that, but it looks very like Haunted Mansion-esque, but but it's beautiful during the day, and I actually love those parts of Florida. We love where we live. Now listen, we do not love hurricanes, we do not love foul weather, but we definitely love days like today. Like it's March 12th today, 13th, March 13th, and it's probably a high of 77 degrees today, and it's beautiful. Anyway, so speaking of my Spanish moss, I've stuffed my little pot with pool noodles and then Spanish moss, and I've also shown you a canister full of eggs that I got from the bins. I'm always looking for things like this constantly. Anytime I go to the bins and I see a wreath or anything that looks like it's, on its last lap in life, I rescue it and I take it apart and harvest all the things off of it that are still useful. So everything that I used to decorate these pots came from the bins, and they were in the form of a wreath or some other decor item that could easily be deconstructed and used to further its life, keep it out of the landfills. I think that's super important. I think anytime you thrift from the bins where you know that that's its last chance in life, it's going to the landfill, if you can rescue it and make something from it, do it. Anyway, you can see how that's coming together. I love how this is looking. I think it's so pretty. I do come in and tone down that white, but you're going to see at the end how just beautiful these come out. I'm using hot glue to attach all my elements to my pot. I'm basically trying to make the top of the pot look like a very, loosely put together nest. So I don't know if y'all have ever observed nests in nature and in your yard, but it's amazing how tightly those birds can weave a nest together. It's incredible. We had a mockingbird nest right outside my garage door, and it was just so fascinating to watch the birds build the nest and then guard the nest. And then, the babies were born, and my German short-haired pointer knew they were there, and she was very curious, but we managed to keep her away from them. She did not eat the birds. Now, rats, squirrels, rabbits, those are a totally different story. Like, she definitely has caught her fair share of those. Again, all these pieces that I'm adding right now were from what was an Easter or spring wreath that I took apart, and I put them in one of my protein canisters. And anytime I have pieces and parts of things like that, I just label what it is, put it in my craft room, and it lives there until I need it. We are, and I've mentioned this is the 4th video I've mentioned this in. It's going to take a lot more videos. We are upcycling my way through my workshop. So anything that needs to be upcycled, I'm going to make my best effort to do that. I am not buying special things for projects. I am working with what I have on hand. So I think that's a really great practice. When you've accumulated as much as I have, it becomes just, at what point does it become hoarding? I don't know. Like, I'll have to look at the definition of that. But I do know that my friend from, White Sparrow Living, is that what she's called? Yes. Is her name Wendy? Yeah, I think her name's Wendy. She always says it's not hoarding if you use it, but I wasn't using it, so I'm using it now. So I've made myself accountable for 4 videos now that this is what we're doing. We're working through the stash. So we're trying to not go thrifting. That's a hard try for me because it's something that my son and I do together, and that is just that's too good to pass up. When you get to spend time with your grown children, you don't really want to say no to that ever. So we go thrifting, but I've been very disciplined. I have not filled my cart. I've not bought anything that I knew I absolutely could use right away. So now I'm just filling up that second pot with Spanish moss again. I ran out of Spanish moss on these projects, so I am going to have to go outside and harvest some more from my trees. And what I do is I just put it in the oven at a very low temperature for a few hours probably 5 or 6 hours at like 150. I wrap it in tin foil, or put tin foil over it so it doesn't hit anything that, like, so it doesn't catch on fire in the oven. Now listen, don't tell anybody I told you how to do that. If you have Spanish moss, I mean, if you live in the South, maybe you probably do. But anyway, so those birds at the Dollar General, they also have, those were bluebirds, but they also have cardinals. So at Christmas time, those are always super handy to have around. They do have some really pretty cardinals as well. And I have a lot of those. So I'm actually thinking about, we did make these pots at the library. We made these pots at the library, 25 girls and me. We made these clay pots. We did not embellish them that day. I don't think we did. Maybe we did. I don't remember. Anyway, I mean, we embellished them with molds and stamps and all sorts of things like that, but I'm not sure that we filled them with flowers. Can't remember. But one of the next projects that we're going to do at the library is we're going to make teacup and saucer bird's nests. So I'm sure y'all have seen those. They're super cute. I made one for a Home Talk article not long ago, and I will probably make them on here eventually. I try to make my projects like cover as many areas as I can. Like if I do it on YouTube, we're also going to do it at the library if it's within the budget and it's something I can get, 25 of. Also, I write some articles for Creative Fabrica blog and then Home Talk blog. So anytime I can make a project stretch across all of those things, that's super helpful. And also I can sell it at the end of the day. I can take all these things to shows. I'm just picking again pieces and parts of things that I've harvested from other things, and I am securing them with hot glue. I just love the way these turn out. So those are all 3 of those. Those are all finished and photographed and ready to pack up and take to a show. Things like this I pack separately. I don't pack them with the rest of my things that are far less breakable. Now we have our next project. This is my original artwork. I scanned it. I did not scan it. I had it scanned at my favorite print shop, and after it's scanned, I can do absolutely anything I want to with my own artwork. So after it's scanned, I can print it. I can send it off to be printed. I can make decoupage paper with it on Zazzle. I can do anything with it. So I am choosing to use water slide on these cast iron skillets. I have painted these. These again came from the bins, of course. I love it when they have big boats of metal kitchenware at the bins, and they have them almost every time I go. So I've been picking these cast iron skillets up mostly because it's just the irony of having a pig and a chick on a skillet, bacon and eggs. This particular piece of art, my husband names my artwork pieces. So this is Kevin Bacon and his chick Kira. If you get it, you get it. Which the irony of that is that Kevin Bacon and his wife, Kira Sedgwick, they actually sing to their goats in their barn, and they put it up on Instagram. So I thought that was super ironic, because I didn't know about that when my husband gave them this clever name. So I'm just using water slide paper to transfer that image onto the skillets. You've seen me do this a million times. I'm pushing that water out from under the paper now with a paper towel. And I am soaking the water slide image in my Tupperware for about a minute. A minute is about as long as you want to soak it, and you'll know that it's ready when you grasp it between your thumb and your forefinger and the image slides from the water slide paper. So if you're intimidated by water slide paper, go back and watch some of my other videos and you'll see that it comes up quite a bit on my channel, mostly because I work with so much of my own artwork. And this was the fastest way to get my artwork on absolutely everything I could put it on. You'll see me do different transfer methods too. Sometimes I print out on tissue paper. Sometimes I order decoupage paper from Zazzle with my own artwork. I have prints made at a professional print shop in Minnesota. I have note cards made pretty often. Those are one of my best sellers, and I love them because I don't have to make them. So here I am. Now I'm using this chiffon ribbon that I got from Amazon quite a while ago. I'm using this to embellish the fry pan. I thought these were just super, super, like I said, ironic, and I also love kitchen art. And you know, every time I make one of these, they sell, so probably won't hang on to these very long. You can see the I'm using the chiffon ribbon, but I'm also using a flour sack towel that I coffee stained, and I'm just tearing that into strips, and I'm going to use that as part of my bow. Actually, it's not even going to be a bow. I'm just going to tie it in a knot and glue it at the top after I embellish with some roses. I always love to use yellow roses when I do this project or any project that I'm going to embellish with this particular art piece, because yellow roses are the symbol of friendship. And I feel like, you know, this pig and chick, they have a budding friendship. So I use yellow rosebuds. And if y'all are artists, if y'all are artistic and crafty and all those things, you know that there's some irony in art. There's some thought that goes into making every piece meaningful. And for me, that's really the fun part when things come together that way, that you realize, because I had also put a phrase on this, a friendship phrase on this. Sometimes I add text to my artwork. I didn't on this particular one, but a lot of times I'll add a line of text that's meaningful. And on this one, I had put "a friend loves at all times" from the Bible, but I didn't put that on here. And when I do that, then that yellow rose means even more. But I used pink roses on that, so it was a departure from what I normally do with this particular image. I'm noticing as I'm watching this back how dirty and unkempt my workstation has become as I've worked. But I'm going to tell you something about crafting. So I craft for resale. We do shows. It gets messy. Like, I say that in every video, and I can't help it. Like, it gets cleaned up, but it gets messy when you're crafting as a job and as a profession. It gets messy, and I can't help it. So I'm putting, these are going to be exactly alike. I think I make 5 of them, and they're going to be exactly alike. There's not going to be really any variation. I do think I used yellow roses on one, and then I did a different ribbon because the pink flowered ribbon just didn't coordinate well. So, and normally at a show, here's the thing. You can either put one out and then people think you only have one, and that's great, so they buy it, or you can put all of them out, and that's impressive too. Now I'm working on these cowbells, and I again bought these cowbells at the bins. I know that's shocker to you. And I'm water sliding my image onto my cowbell. I have that soaking in my Tupperware for a minute, and now I'm just going to slide that right onto the cowbell. I'm going to come in with a paper towel and push that water out from under it. I love the way these look. These were all different colors. I painted them all white. I don't think I spray painted them. And then listen to what I did. I don't remember like my hide and seek record as a child, but as an adult, like, I'm killing it, because I painted all these cowbells and then I put them away. And wherever I put them, I said to myself, well, I'll remember exactly where I put them because they fit so perfectly, and you know, I'll always know where they are when I want to work on them. I might as well have like kissed them all goodbye, because it took me forever to find them in my workshop, and I hate it when I do things like that. Anyway, so what I'm doing in this particular frame is I am tying a fork bow I am not doing it slow enough so that you can actually see how I do it, but that's how it's supposed to look. And just so you know, just Google how to tie a fork bow and you will find out how to tie a fork bow. You can also use your fingers. If you want me to slow it down sometime and show you how to tie a fork bow, I will. And it is a skill that is totally worth having because it makes the most perfect little bows. And you can do, you know, a double loop bow, single loop bow, whatever you want to do. Super easy. Now I make 10 of these and I don't show you all 10 of them. I'm going to start working on another one here, but then I'm going to show you what they all look like. I put them in a wire basket and put the price on them right away, so they are all ready to go to a show. All I need to do is grab them on show day. Original artwork, and her name is Daisy because everybody knows that a Jersey cow is always named Daisy and a black and white Holstein cow is always named Bessie. Anyway, just, you know, free information there. Anyway, so now I'm working on these little baskets, and I think I did show myself painting these earlier. These are just little grapevine baskets that I bought at Hobby Lobby on clearance. They were 67 cents a piece. And again, you know, I had these little sheep, little lambs that came from Hobby Lobby. I painted them. They were shiny, but I wanted them to be a flat bisque finish, so I painted them. I spray painted them, and now I'm just coming in with pieces and parts of things that I have in my stash to embellish them. I love the way these turned out. Listen, like, I can't be making Easter crafts without the lamb. That's what Easter's all about. I'm just going to say that. So, you know, I love to do some spring things with bunnies and all the fun little cutesy things, but Easter does have a deep meaning. So I'm also going to put a banner across the front of these. You're going to see that. I'm using some more of that chiffon ribbon. It's a little too wide though, so I'm going to rip it into strips that are just half as wide as the original ribbon. And here I am, I'm tying a finger bow. Listen, I'm sorry that I'm not doing it slow enough for y'all to see. If you know how to make one, you don't need the instruction, but if you don't, just, you know, Google it. There's plenty of great tutorials on how to make a finger bow or a fork bow. I just printed out He Is Risen on cardstock paper. I wanted it to be white because this project is white. And then I'm using my pencil to bend that ribbon, that paper, so that it looks like a banner. And that's it. I'm using hot glue to attach it to the front of my basket. These are just going to be probably a $10 item at our next show. I made 3 of them. They'll sell. Everybody loves baby animals, so there's the little lamb in the basket. I love the way these turned out. Again, I'm trying to get it in the frame so you can see it. Can you tell? Anyway, we're nearing the end of our video. Stick around and see how everything turned out. It sure has been nice.